Perfect. Okay. So hi and welcome to RAREsies Rule, Ollier's Disease Canada, and to our mission and a lot of our vision, which is, of course, education. I find it to be a priority for kids with Olliers, mainly because they face all they have to between the age of 0 and 17. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And during that time, school is not the same.
Yeah.
You don't get awards. You don't get to be there full time. You don't get to enjoy the social and learning aspects in the classroom like others. You're not sure if you fit in because you've been there, you haven't been there. You've been there, you haven't been there.
Absolutely.
So with that said, that's why I decided to start the Educational Scholarship Program. For myself, I wasn't educated properly. Doesn't mean I'm not smart. Doesn't mean I don't know how to get out there and get things done. It's just I wasn't guided and I wasn't provided the opportunity to go further.
Right.
I also left home at 16. So that made a huge difference. I had to leave home. I was in a, my brother was quite abusive with me. So it was time for me to get out and leave that. So anyways, so today I'd like to talk to you about when Bryce was first diagnosed. And I should say, by the way, for the people who are listening and watching us, thank you so much. First of all, this is Karen. She's Bryce's mom. She's a warrior herself. She has had to be by Bryce's side like any mother would. And she actually feels what Bryce feels. So tell me, Karen, how did this all start and what was the first signs for Bryce and for you to notice?
So we actually had no idea that anything was wrong until he broke his femur while he was running outside with the dog, and he slipped in the grass. And we ended up, calling the ambulance. They rushed him to a local hospital and they did x-rays, and the doctor there, kind of pulled us aside and said, it's definitely broken. However, there's something else that we see that's concerning. So we're going to send you off to UMass, which is a bigger hospital in the local city.
Okay.
So they rushed us there, and I can just remember, the whole ride there to the hospital in the ambulance was like, okay, well, what is it? What's wrong? Like, what do you mean there's more to it?
Yeah.
And we ended up getting to the hospital, and they immediately, took their own set of x-rays, again, sat us down and said, okay, yep, it's definitely broken, but we see some tumors. There's quite a bit of them. We're not really sure what it is at this point, but it's definitely concerning. They started asking questions. Have you noticed any other things with Bryce, like with his bones or anything? And I said, as a matter of fact, we have an appointment scheduled in 2 weeks to see his pediatrician because we noticed there was something wrong with his arm, his left arm. We just thought it was like, kind of bowing. And as a little kid, he used to always dislocate his elbow, but that was, nurse's elbow, as they call
Yeah.
it. But so we didn't think anything of that.
How old was he at this point?
He was 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah. So they ended up going ahead and doing some x-rays of his arm. And they said, oh yeah, we see the tumors in his arm as well. So we're like, okay. And they said, well, we're going to have to go in and do surgery. So we'll schedule that for, tomorrow morning, because it was at night by the time we were all settled down at the hospital. So the next morning, he ended up having surgery. They ended up putting in 2 rods in his femur, and when the doctor came out and talked to us, she said that, they took a sample and they're testing it and all of that stuff. We should have an answer in a couple of days. She also said that we tried to go in and do what we would normally do with the rods. However, there wasn't enough solid bone to do what we needed to do. So we had to kind of offset the bone a little bit. So it would be bone versus bone. And,
Yeah.
and they actually had to do another incision on the side of his leg to go in to a different spot. And she explained that the tumor, she said, it's like a thick tapioca pudding is what the consistency is. So, she was like, so you understand that that's the reason why we had to offset it. So we're like, okay. And I just remember him being in so much pain. It was like excruciating to watch.
Heartbreaking, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, so heartbreaking.
Especially, I mean, for me, I mean, I'm the one with the disease. I didn't have a child go through it. But as a mom, I
Yeah.
absolutely understand you. And as a person who adores kids, any kid that is suffering is so difficult
Right.
to take. It really is. So, okay, go on.
So we ended up, I think we were at in the hospital for like 7 days or something like that. And then we ended up going home, and it was just, a whole new ball game for us. Getting him in a wheelchair and just, moving him around and just, being so gentle. And, he ended up going back to school just for like the end of the year type of fun stuff.
Right.
So he kind of missed out on that. And then it was kind of a whirlwind where, he's 16 now. He had, from the age of 6 to 16 now, he has had 13. We thought it was 12, but we counted, the doctors counted the other day when we were at the hospital, and they said he's actually had 13 major surgeries. And, in 10 years, like that's absurd. That's more than one a year sometimes. And the amount of school the poor kid has missed. And, I can remember one day, it was actually after the Boston Marathon bombings, and one of the little boys, I believe, lost a leg or something. And, he was seeing ads on TV, how these kids can run with their orthotic, legs and stuff. And he said to me, and he was probably like, I'm going to say maybe 10 at this point. And he was like, you know what, Mom? Those kids don't even have legs, and they can run and do more things than I can. And I was like, wow.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Absolutely. I used to, when I was younger, one of my recollections of one of my surgeries, it was, of course, just was at a school year. But I'd missed out at the end, of course, but I was in a body cast. Back then, they would cast me. They didn't want me moving, and I would move anyway. Well, so much so they put another cast on my left leg with a bar in between so that I wouldn't move, which was not, so I learned to crawl. My mother used to make, because my elbows were raw, so she would make me elbow pads out of like a sheepskin. So that I could get around and so on. So, but with the schooling, it's a lot when you miss. It's heartbreaking. And my dad often, he'll say to me that he remembers a day in particular where I was coming home from a surgery, and I was laying in the back seat, and I asked him, why did God make me this way? And he couldn't answer me. He just was baffled and couldn't answer me.
Yeah.
Now I think it's because I was here to do what I'm doing. That's what I think. I've not suffered as much as a lot of these kids, and I'm so
Yeah.
lucky. But I'm also so lucky that I went through the guinea pig stage
Right.
and all of that, that I'm here now. And I hope I'm offering the best support I can,
Absolutely.
because I know it's not easy at
Mhm.
all. And that's why I think the scholarships are important too, because you
Absolutely.
miss out on so much in
Oh,
school. Now back to what I was trying to say was that my mother would put me out in the front lawn in my body cast on a lounge chair to have fun
yeah.
and be outside.
Right.
But there was always those kids that and they would come and steal my bike and laugh at me because I couldn't get up and go get them. But then I reminded them that the cast will be coming off
Yeah.
and I will be back up. So beware. And that's the road that started for me, that brought me my confidence and independence. And that's something that I want the kids to have as well.
Oh,
Because as a kid, especially a teenager, you've got so much going through your brain.
yeah.
Girlfriends, boyfriend, ahead. I mean, I feared that I wouldn't be able to have kids,
Yeah.
because I also got cervical cancer and
Mhm.
I got cysts on my ovaries. This apparently is also common for girls with Ollier's disease. So that affected me. So from a male perspective, I'm sure there's a lot as well going through his mind. So
Definitely.
as I've said before, I'm here for you. My heart is there. I think Bryce is so courageous, as you put it.
Yeah.
So go on. So when did they finally diagnose? So after they had these x-rays and samples?
So it was probably, I think, 3 days in that they finally said that he had Ollier's disease, that he was only the second case that they had ever seen at the hospital. So they referred us to Children's, and we ended up going there probably, I think, like a month after he had his surgery. We started doing all of our follow-up there,
Okay, good.
transferred all the records and everything. So we started to be followed out there. And
Were they familiar with the disease at the
they were,
children's? They
they
were.
were,
Good. That is a blessing right there.
yeah,
That is sure. It definitely makes a difference.
yeah, definitely. I mean, they hadn't seen a lot of it, but they had definitely, they knew about it and they had some patients.
Some knowledge about it,
Yeah,
and that's good. That's
exactly.
a plus. That makes,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
I remember
definitely.
even myself, every time I'd fracture myself
Yeah,
and I'd go to emerge and I'd have to explain over and over what it was, and often I'd get the look like, are you sure? It's like, I think so. I even had a doctor actually tell me that my leg was not shorter than the other one
oh,
while he measured them.
okay,
Now my femur is the shorter of the parts of
okay,
my leg. So
yeah,
my other parts, although affected, they've grown fine.
oh, good.
So my left leg as well has it, but I've had no issues with the left leg, which is really strange, but good.
Yeah,
So, and luckily, I mean, I don't remember the day I was diagnosed because I was so young,
right.
but I do remember my parents being in a state of, what do we do? It
Mhm.
was the 1960s. Amputation was the answer. You've
Yep.
got tumors. We don't know what this disease is. It might spread.
Yep.
So, and they were going to amputate from, of course, the femur, right at the top, all the way down. My mother refused. Sometimes I wonder if that would have been better for me,
Yeah.
so it goes in circles, kind of things,
Oh,
let's say.
definitely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and how was Bryce during all of that period of time?
I would say he was, I don't know, he had his moments of, like you, like, why me? What is this happening to me? Um, because we went right from having his leg done, the surgery for his leg, into having his arm operated on. By the time we ended up having his arm done, because we obviously couldn't do it while the leg was healing, we had to wait. Um, the doctors went in, and there were some pictures that I had shared on Bryce's page where, at one point his arm was actually backwards.
Yeah, I
So
saw that.
yeah,
That's amazing. Like it's baffling,
yeah.
you know?
So they went in
But
and
I like the fact that he's in shorts and he's at the beach and he's having fun. That to
exactly
me,
right.
that right there changes the whole perspective.
Right.
He's
Exactly.
still a kid.
Yeah, definitely. So we went and we had that. The first surgery was to try and straighten the bones out as much
Okay.
as we could, and then add some support because there was so many tumors. So we did that, and he continued to have really bad arm pain, constantly, popping it out, and just, that when you hit your funny bone, how
Yep.
it feels, it was like constant for him.
Oh my God.
So, we ended up having a consult with the doctor, and, he was just like, because it was so bad at that point, he was like, amputation is definitely on the table, but we were like, well, if there's anything else. So he said, I'm going to a conference down in Florida. Let me bring his case with me. I'll discuss it, see if anyone has any ideas. So then when he came back, he met with us and he said, we talked about it as a team, and we're thinking maybe we could do a one bone forearm. And we're like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it means that, he'll have one bone. He won't be able to rotate his hand anymore or his arm. But what we can do is make him a splint that will let him see what it's going to feel like.
Okay.
They had a special splint made for his arms so that he could, get a feeling for what it's going to be like.
What it be? Yeah.
And, if that's something he would like to try.
And how old was he? Still 6?
No, he was, oh boy, I'm going to say, I think it was maybe
8, 10. Okay.
I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, when it comes to so many,
mm,
it's really, kind of difficult. When I say 49 surgeries, I mean, for me to go back and look at the dates and blah, 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 I'm so sorry, but that ain't gonna happen.
Can't even imagine. I know. I used to have like a thing on my phone so I could like check and see, but
Yeah.
so we said, okay, let's try it. And he said, the only thing you have to know is that once we go in there, if it doesn't work, there's no other option besides amputation. So we're like, okay. So they called it a salvage surgery because if it didn't work, there was
nothing else they could do.
Yeah. So he had that surgery. It was like the longest surgery. It was, I think that was probably like 8 hours.
Wow.
And he came out and he was like, we'll just fingers crossed, prayer, that it works. It was probably, he was in so much pain. And, they were just like, give it time, give it time, give it time. We're like, this, like, it's not working. Like, he is in so much pain. So the doctor said, I think I know what it is, because he was already in surgery for so long. He didn't move all the tendons and nerves off of the end of, I forget which bone it was at this point, and attach it to the other one, because he had already done that with the bottom, because he had to cut that off.
Right.
So he said, I think that's what's causing the issues. So we're like, okay. So of course that was another, I think that one was like a 5-hour surgery.
Wow.
because they have to, they have to trace the nerve.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's intense. So, and he also cut the other bone. So he left the end of the other bone, the ulna, and the radius, he left it longer for
Okay.
support. So I don't know. So anyways, it wasn't attached, but it was there for support. And so he cut that back as well. So we're like, okay. And then it was probably a couple of months after that surgery that we're like, okay, this is working, the nerve pain, we still had some of that, but
Yeah.
as the doctor told us that when you have nerve pain, it starts up here and then it just, gradually until it falls off.
Self. Yeah. Tingles out of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're like,
And
okay.
it can be the worst.
Oh yeah.
Nerve pain can be, no matter where it is, it reaches here.
Mhm.
And it's just, it really is. And I feel
can't
for
even
him.
imagine. Yep.
I know exactly the feeling, and it's not a fun thing.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not. So then we had, he started to get really bad headaches. So of course, because of the fact that they can get brain tumors, we're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, now what? So we go in, and because of the way that he was trying to use his arm, he was, with the shoulder,
Right.
it was purely
That was,
tension, but it was causing major headaches. So thank God it wasn't that. It wasn't a tumor. It was just
yeah.
that he had to,
That the tendons and so on
exactly.
were being used differently. And that's a thing a lot of people don't realize or know, that even though you'll have a surgery to rectify one thing and hopefully fix or advance that bonus, the other parts in your body are also affected, which can lead to other surgeries.
Yeah.
And then the list goes up.
Yeah.
It can be very annoying, because you think, oh good, they did this, I'm better, and then click, you find out that it, as much as this was great, it added something else to it.
Definitely.
So,
I mean, I think, just having all those surgeries, and it's not just the physical pain, the mental pain is, I can't even stress how it is, because they're, like you said before, they're missing out on, all he wants to do is be a boy. He wants to run around with his friends, and he's stuck inside, with either a cast on his arm, or, cast on his leg, or,
they're in too much pain.
Yeah. And there's some where he just, he can't do those things.
Yeah.
And, they're out riding bikes, and he can't ride a bike. He, just
there's so much.
Missing out so much. And then even in school, he was in elementary school, which was up to 4th grade. And they were so afraid that he was going to hurt himself, or not himself, but like, because the kids are crazy on the playground.
Right.
So they literally made him sit on a bench at recess. And he got to pick a friend to come and sit with him. And he could,
oh my God,
outside. It was awful. He missed out on so much. And I was like, I used to run the walking club, and I said, you know what? I'll take full responsibility. He can come down with me. He can walk around the track with the other kids. He doesn't have to sit on a bench.
Yeah.
But
that's really, it's a little shocking and backward thinking for the teachers to have thought that was a solution.
Yeah.
Even myself, when I worked in high schools, I was told that I should take aware of my limits. And I just looked at them, and as an educator, that's not something you say. You want to reach that limit and beyond.
Right.
You can go there, you can do it. Yeah. And it just kind of hit me in a way that, are you telling me that because I have a problem physically that I should step away? I'm sorry, but that's not how it works,
Right.
you know? So, and again, back to the scholarships, the main reason, I mean, people get scholarships because they were in school all the time. They got awards, their grades are in the 80s and 90s, blah, blah, blah. Well, sorry, if I don't fit into your spectrum.
Exactly.
So, you know, I think that these scholarships, I hope, give a feeling to the kids of confidence and success,
Of
that
course.
this will provide them their stepping stone. And I'm not saying that parents haven't provided this for their kids in
Right.
any form or fashion.
Right.
I am just trying to add to the comfort of going forward, because you're becoming an adult
Yeah.
and things are going to change.
Right. Absolutely.
And I don't want you in a social service system,
Yep.
because they'll take advantage of you, and it's a failed system. So I want nothing really but for the best for these kids, you know.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff that I went through, I don't want them to go through. And I just think that it's an important part of it, especially because of how much they miss out
Right.
in school and in the most important years of school,
Yeah.
elementary and high school.
Right.
You know, sure, educate at university and college is fun because of all those stories and blah, blah, blah. That's great, you know, but still, I mean,
Right.
to get there, you didn't have the life that we had to get where we want to be.
Right.
So, and I hope that Bryce is happy that I've chosen him to be the first
So happy.
recipient.
So
And I look forward to talking with him as well,
Yeah,
so much.
definitely.
So,
He's very excited.
we're going to end it here if you don't mind. I
Yeah.
have a session coming up with someone else at 11. I need to prepare for,
Sure.
but I think this was a first great episode. This understanding, I hope, for people to understand Ollier's a little bit. If you could, do you want to mention, please, where we can send money for the research?
So the research that we're hoping to get a clinical trial started soon is at Johns Hopkins. I don't have the exact.
Okay, that's fine. You can send that to me,
share a
but we
link.
know it's Johns Hopkins. And of course, for those who
Yeah.
aren't aware, it's wonderful Dr. Nara Sobrera, who's headed our team for this, who has been with us, found us through our Facebook groups.
Yep.
We all had the joy of spitting into a tube and sending it to her.
Yeah.
My mother's a bad spitter. My dad was great at it. So we're really happy and proud that Nara is doing this for us as well. If I don't want to forget to mention that there's Mafushi as well as chondrosarcoma. We're going to talk about that next in our little episode, and keep going on how Bryce is and so on. It was a pleasure. I look forward to it. If we could do this, let's say maybe next week again.
Yeah.
And say hi to Bryce for me. And I have a little surprise I'll be sending to you. It's nothing big, but it's something I found that was cute.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You take care, Karen. We'll talk again soon.
Bye-bye.
Look.